J Dilla is one of hip-hop's greatest producers of all time. His unique approach to making beats is felt on all landscapes of music today, either directly or indirectly. Perhaps his influence is most felt in the genre of lo-fi hip-hop. The laid-back genre, most known for its relaxing sounds, focuses heavily on sampling and the perfect accidents that create an alternative to perfection. This was the same idea behind the music of J Dilla. Using the MPC 3000, J Dilla would create innovative sounds, prioritizing the feeling that you got from the music over anything. To further explain why J Dilla was able to differentiate his sound from everybody else, I need to look further into the MPC 3000 and Quantization. The MPC 3000 is a very popular sampler in hip-hop. The machine was popular within hip-hop producers because of how accessible it was, and it had some pretty cool features as well. One of the cool features about the MPC 3000 is the way that it allowed you to use your own sounds and do whatever you want with them. This is one of the things that J Dilla would take advantage of, as J Dilla did whatever he wanted to with a beat, and he did it so effortlessly as well. Like, listening to his songs, the BPM could change like 3 times and it would still feel natural and smooth. Instead of keeping the same vibe as the original sample, J Dilla would switch it up, not only through the use of tools like the EQ, but by chopping up samples in some of the most unique ways I've ever seen.
Baby must be a magician.
That's only one aspect of how J Dilla was able to get his sound. Now we need to focus on quantization. I am not a producer, I might be wrong, but anyways, although not exclusive to the MPC 3000, quantization was one of the features that it would carry, and it really helped in terms of polishing a beat and making it sound professional. The main purpose for quantization is that any imperfection in the rhythm would kind of cease to exist. It wasn't necessarily something that was frowned upon. And because of those reasons, almost everybody used the quantization. J Dilla, however, wouldn't use quantization at all. So J Dilla wouldn't follow the traditional patterns for beats and stuff. I don't know about music theory, but you know, here's Questlove talking about it.
Whereas this part is normal. It sounded like the kick drum was played by like a drunk 3-year-old. And I was like, are you allowed to do that? So it's like, I was like, what the hell is that? And that to me was the most liberating moment.
Shout out to Questlove for bailing me out of that one. So let's get back to Dilla. If you're getting into J Dilla, then the album to check out is Donut. The name of the album is something that I find really interesting in terms of what it represents. Donuts were J Dilla's favorite snack, but because donuts are circles, they're much like rap beats in that they loop. And the idea of looping is heavy throughout the album. The best way I can think of describing this album is by saying it's an endless piece of art that goes in a circle. It's an album that starts at the end and ends in the beginning, and there's always sound filling up your ear. And I promise you that if you've never heard this album before and you play it without looking at the track list, the album is gonna loop and you're not even gonna realize it. That was personally my first experience listening to J Dilla's Donuts. I must have been listening to the album for like an hour at that point, and then I looked at the track list and it was like the 4th song. The album does such a great job circling back around that I did not notice I was finished with the album and was in the middle of re-listening to it. There's also so many different sounds when listening to this. The instrumentation is beyond me. This is truly the greatest instrumental album I've ever heard. Usually there's not a lot to say about a 1-minute song, but on this album, a 1-minute song feels full. For example, we can look at the song Lightworks.
This is Bendix, the Tomorrow.
The song is 1 minute and 55 seconds long, and the journey that you take throughout the song is incredible. It starts out with the original sample as an intro.
The name of the game is Lightworks.
Then J Dilla walks in with his trademark sirens that were kind of like his producer tag low-key. And by the time you're into it, he reintroduces the sample. And before you think the song is getting repetitive, it's just over. So yeah, pretty cool, right? And on first listen, you might not understand the appeal for J Dilla's Donuts. When listening to beats, we're kind of hardwired to listen to the beats that are meant to be rapped over. And that's not necessarily what Donuts is about. The beats on Donuts are more meant to be appreciated by themselves rather than with someone else talking over them. And that's what makes Donuts so special to me. They're meant to be standalone tracks, and I think, in my opinion, that they are good enough by themselves, and it's amazing.
I turned around.
Another thing that should be noted about Donuts is how hard Dilla worked to get this album out. Most of the beats on the album were made during J Dilla's time in the hospital. This was a really hard time for Dilla, you know, he had a blood disease and he was really sick by this time. But despite the pain and everything that he was going through, his main goal was to finish the album. Since he couldn't leave the hospital really, his family members would have to get the records in order for J Dilla to sample. And you know, knowing the story, a lot of the beats on the album make more sense. You know, this was a dark time for Dilla, and that's why the beats on this album are downbeat at times and upbeat at other times. I think the song that best represents Dilla's vision for this album is Don't Cry. The song at the beginning is really sad or downbeat, not necessarily the happiest song. But as the song goes on, you see a deflating song all of a sudden turn into a song full of life. The way that J Dilla chops up and rearranges the sample is really just a piece of art. This is like an audio version of a collage. I think the message that the song tries to convey and that J Dilla was going for, I don't think it's saying to force happiness, right? That's why the sample kind of starts out and it's a very slow and down-tempo song, because sadness is normal and should be welcome. But when the time is right and you feel ready, it's also important that you don't cry. As a side note, this song is commonly believed to be dedicated to J Dilla's mom, who was always by his side in the hospital. And according to Questlove, there's a lot of hidden meanings on this album when you take a look at the sample and what they're saying. And I thought that was pretty cool. J Dilla would pass away in February 10th of 2006. And although this is very sad and really unfortunate, through hard work and dedication, J Dilla would finish Donuts and he would actually get to see it be released on the day of his birthday, 3 days before he would pass away. J Dilla's legacy lives on through the people he inspired.
We got to make music, and we think like if Dilla was alive, would he like this? Like I have to work on behalf of Dilla.
As soon as Dilla walked in, Pharrell got down on his knees and started like bowing to him like this is the man. I mean, he was doing it like just paying homage. It wasn't like he was so serious, but he was serious.
But most of all, his legacy lives on through the music he left behind. There's hours and hours of J Dilla beats on YouTube. You just gotta look for them. With that being said, as always, I want to shout out to J Dilla, you know, my outro music. This was a great video to make, and I had fun doing it. So yeah.